I am very moved to be here, having a chance to talk poetry and connection with you at this moment, because I am really bummed and really freaked out and barely holding it together. So somebody who helps me keep it together is the late, great C.D. Wright. I'm going to start with an excerpt from this incredible book. It's just one little page, but this is C.D. Wright. As a child, I was a kleptomaniac, but I'm a very nice person now. I wouldn't take a napkin without my doctor's permission. When the lightning hit the mute swan in all her glory, the students were traumatized. They were in the refectory overlooking the lake. When the lightning hit the mute swan in all her glory, she exploded. Her 5 cygnets sizzled on the surface. There will be no more night. When I lay my hand on the live oak, I wondered how many pencils would it yield. Pencils of days and of hips and lilies. Pencils of novocaine and commotion. That self-conscious Southern poetry, preposterous as a wedding dress. The old washing machine Clyde uses to make her papier-mâché from the Atlanta Constitution finally broke. She'll never find parts. If you haven't read Deep Step Come Shining, you absolutely must. I don't think I would have gotten through without it. This is a new one. And it's a weirdie. Covered, unrecovering. Cloth has been replaced by paper. Paper replaced by plastic. And plastic by more. What will I use to sew, to write, to slide off? Waterproof forever now? I write in the sun as if in a cloud. I see my father who died, who I didn't even see dead. He was always alive when I saw him. I see him now in the sun as if in a cloud, which was always my unseeing, my disconnect. Love songs need a ragged piece, an unfinished edge. That's what's left, in a way, complete. I'm going to read 150 poems. This is a different project. It's just this. Makes it look like I'm doing a lot more. Miracles. I spent the whole day crying and writing until they became the same, as when the planet covers the sun with all its might and still I can see it, or when one dead body gives its heart to a name on a list, a match, a light, sailing a signal flare behind me for another to find. A scratch on the page is a supernatural act, one twisting fire out of water, blood out of stone. We can read us. We are not alone. So I chose poems today to read today because I need to ground myself in something. I'm finding it very hard to stick with one thought, and I'm looking back at some poems, and I'm having a hot flash, of course. Looking at poems, and I'm thinking like, well, did I know what I was saying then? Did I know what I meant on this poem? Did I know what I was talking about? And so that's why I chose these poems, because I think I knew what I was talking about then. I'm not sure I recognize it now, but as always, I'm looking through these, trying to find the shortest ones. Where's a short one? Oh yeah, here. It's 3 lines. The dessert I didn't have. Grilled peaches on shortbread with raspberries and black pepper ice cream. We're all out, said the communicative waiter. That was 12 years ago. But honestly, now it was 20. This is a true story. It's called Identity and Community, or There Is No I in C. I went all the way to Hawaii to write and to go in the ocean, and then I was too scared to go in the ocean. So this is a poem about that. One wonders, if I hadn't been scared to go in the ocean, what poem I would have written. This is the one I wrote when I was afraid. Identity and Community. I don't want to be surrounded by people, or even one person, but I don't want to always be alone. The answer is to become my own pet, hungry for plenty in a plentiful place. There is no true solitude, only. At seaside, I have that familiar sense of being left out, too far to glean the secret. How go in? What an inhuman surface the sea has, always open. I'm too afraid to go in. I give no yes. Full of shame, but refuse to litter ever. I pick myself up. Wind has power, sun has power. What is power's source? There's no privacy outside. We've invaded it. There is no life outside empire. All paradise is performance for people who pay. Perhaps I'm an invader and feel I haven't paid. What a waste to have lost everything in mind. Watching 3 mom-like women try to go in, I'm green. I want to join them, but they are not my women. I join them, apologizing. They splash away from me. They're their pod. People are alien. I'm an unknown story, erasing myself with seawater. There goes my honey and fog, my shoulders and legs. What could be queerer than this queer tug lust for what already is, who already am, but other of it? Happens? That kind of desire anymore? Oh, I am that queer thing, pulling and greener than the blue sea. I'm new with envy. Beauty washing over itself, no reflection, no claim, nothing to see. If there's anything bluer than the ocean, it's its greenness. It's its turquoise blood mixing me. I was a woman alone in the sea. Don't tell anybody, I tell myself. Don't try to remember this. Don't document it. Remember, write down to not document it. So I did write this book, Tanya. It was about a lot of my mentors in college, most of them women in California and Santa Cruz. They taught me how to think. They really did. I didn't realize it at the time, but now I do. They taught me how to think. Taught me that I could think and that I should think. And a very brief little part of that poem, part 7 of 10. This is for Donna Haraway, Bettina Apteker, and Wendy Brown. Donna, you taught me books were 7-dimensional. Text, supporting text, length, width, time, energy, belief. Bettina, you taught me that to become a woman, I would need to seriously grow up. To see ordinary days as a heart-stopping continual, to see ordinary days as heart-stopping continual historical facts. Wendy, you taught me personhood was powerful and not a given. It had to be continually rewritten in ever stronger language, deeper ink. Helene, you made books live inside me, like parasites or worms dangerously close to my heart, even ever after a book heart, deceiving, digesting, discovered continually. Villette is Charlotte's best book. Beloved is America's most necessary and visionary book. Mrs. Dalloway showed the gendered split between 2 worlds. I wrote a poem called Post-Feminism, which begins, there are 2 kinds of people, soldiers and women, as Virginia Woolf said, both for decoration only. To whom was I writing, if not you, my teachers, to show you that your teaching took, that what you taught caught, released back into the current as writing, as poetry, living talk. Moving far away. I hear they're trying to make borders in water now, to declare it a place, impose a shape, dissolve the solvent. It's no solution to our probable problem. I'll never see you again. I say on my cell, said to myself, we'll be well below alone now. Can I be a good friend to you if I move so far away? Haven't seen you in years, but I like a rough edge. Island broken off a big bully. I'll use up all my firewood on you. Sorcery, what turned into me? An iron foot, a leg of log, a wish for symmetry. My fire handed down to me by cauldron witches in their longish, unauthorized youth. Broken crest rising, rinsed of desire, full of push and pull, no rush or to finish or to vanish, as if water didn't wave and bring tidings, and answer me like an animal, jealous, crushed, washing herself. I'll never forget you told me never to forget what I did. Your voice a needle, threaded, heading for my open wound, already burned clean for a clean split. I'll finish with two. This one's called No Traveler Returns. I can't remember if it's sexy or not, so I'm not sure if I should warn you that it's not. Because no one wants to hear a poem they thought was going to be sexy and isn't. That's rough. No Traveler Returns. I was like you once, a sealed plastic bag of water filters floating on the sea. I thought my numbers proved my time and space on Earth. I thought having children was a way of creating more love. I thought thoughts I was ashamed to speak in case they were what everyone else already thought, or in case they were unthinkable thoughts nobody would dare think, much less say, which would blow up the world everyone had to live in if I said them. I muddled that distinction to extinction. Pure silence, not a piece of peace, and a breathlessness not of wonder but black throat, choking on backwash. Once a wild, tentacled, screaming creature, every inch a kissed lip of a beloved place, a true and relentless mind. All heart, if heart is a dumb hope of reusable pump. What was it you said that made me think I was like you once? Remember the last terrifying moments. You clenched up and wanted me to be completely open. We'd broken up. Remember such terms, such luxury? We thought breaking up a kind of preservation. And to cut off circulation, decided to sever at the place where our hair had grown together. An axe, a pair of kitchen scissors. That rusty axe, fully fatigued, and scissors which cut raw chicken bacteria into everything it touched. Nothing did the trick. To come apart, we'd have to come together, and so I tried to make you come. You said it was our last time, so you'd remember it. You cried out, then cried, and I hardened against you, then softened, then wished we could go back. Wanted to love you like before. Twisted myself like nobody's pile of wires. Did you try to make me come and I couldn't, wouldn't? Or did I give you that and let you let me go? And there'll be no other way to be once this way's gone. The last song on earth, the last jelly bean. Last because nobody wanted it, or everybody sang it, till the end. Once this day November's over, never another. Each day nothing like the last, except that it's the last and that's new too. Each moment broken glasses, a covered mirror, foxed. The waste stays in place. The rest disappears, the unrest too. There's no way to follow my own mind. My own mind is not leading. I'm unleaded, I'm gasoline. I'm everything in between, this flame and that attracted wind. I forgot my glasses, how will we drink? Seeing isn't believing if I believe I see better with something I can so easily forget. And what if I can't forget? I forgot the heft and squirm of my own baby in my arms, in my own womb. I'll forget anything and call it an accident. Matched to fuel and breathing it all in as if I'm living normally, day to re-registered day. Why is it, if I can only remember what I myself experienced, that I can also forget what I experienced? Who records the records and collects the recollections? I had that baby in my womb for 39 weeks, for 3/4 of a year, a full calendar minus summer, an unforgettable summer, each day fucking endless. Oh, I know all the numbers. Everything adds up. I've never seen my womb, but my doctor has. I never saw that doctor again. Thanks.
So Mojave Ghost is a book-length poem with a coda at the end, so there's no book titles, and I'm just going to read straight through it for about 17 minutes. And I should tell you first that in the span of a few years, I lost my wife, the great poet C.D. Wright, my mother, and my younger sister, with whom I'd been extraordinarily close. Ungrounded, a word that Brenda just used, I accepted the invitation of a new immigrant to this country, the artist Ashwini Bhatt, to begin hiking along the 800-mile San Andreas Fault. For me, it was a meditative exercise, a kind of secular version of the Stations of the Cross. Eventually, we passed through the town where I was born in the Mojave Desert. As the present mixed with my memories, and as my tumultuous inner emotions and the landscape coalesced, I felt my sense of self become kaleidoscopic. I found myself correlating my emotions and the stricken landscape with other divisions, the fractures and folds that underlie not only this country, but any self in its relationship with others. Mojave Ghost. Men arm themselves with facts. They say, already reaching, "Let me see that." They ask seriously, who is your second favorite tenor sax player between 63 and 65? Each thinks the other is a bit emptier, more cardboard than himself, that he alone made the necessary decisions. Only I live the real, he thinks. I think. Night wind clanging rope against the flagpole. There's nothing in me now of what I was before. That's what he tells himself in order to live with himself. Nearly midnight. On the dimly moonlit porch, his boots lined up neatly at the front door. 3 of the 4 black laces are tucked into the boots' collars, but one has gone loose, spilling from the eyelet to the concrete like a thin blood trail. I found my necessity, too, was provisional, and whatever was essential in me had gone slack behind certain irrevocable choices I made. She asked quietly if he noticed. What? How the small moths come out at dusk, but the big ones, these, she said, casting her eyes into the darkness, only after midnight. A studied lack of correlation between his eyes, intent on her lips, and what he wants, which is somewhere else. That spangled negation she so casually calls evening. It all changes in the seconds it takes for a parasite in the saliva of a sandfly to replicate itself in the gut and migrate to the fly's proboscis, waking alone into the faintly semen smell of the middle of the night. Back at Lana's diner, watching the woman at the far table sweep her hair to her other shoulder and flash her teeth at her companion. "Red sauce," says the woman when her eggs come, and the waitress returns with ketchup. As I'm picking up my check from the table where I've eaten alone, the waitress calls, "Come again." And instinctively I answer, "We will." Handwritten note near the cash register. Do not lean arm on pecan roll. So I pay up and step into humid, rock-flavored afternoon heat. Dark pompadour clouds casting giant shadows. Gonna be a gully washer. Technically, it is stunned, not dead. And though the retractable bolt has obliterated the cow's brain, the nicotine Saturn of its still open eye seems to regard me. What bird wove those sprigs of lavender, mint, yarrow, and citronella into a nest below our rusted porch light, just before the rain begins to blow more rain against the rain? Because he was angry, or because he was depressed and denied it, or because he loathed, was laded with self-loathing, because he soaked in disappointment and boorishness, because depression swallows sound as mud swallows rain, the finer pleas and raw cries of pain he was eliciting from those he loved didn't reach him. Now he finds there's no way to mind the gap between first and third person perspectives. His perception of the world oscillates in and out of referential focus. I simply finds no way. Like trying to straddle the scuttle in the attic. Nor between the publicity of the world and the self's interiority, nor, for that matter, between past and present. For still I pre-assume you before I catch myself staring into space, wanting to tell you something. Much of my experience is indistinct. God help me, I think, vaguely. But every moment rivets you into me. Because the changing dune line opens contours of meanings other than the ones for which we're prepared, we treat it with suspicion. But how to sustain attentiveness, how to keep the mind from dropping its needle into the worn grooves of association? My art, you said in passing, is nothing much more than the discipline of an embodied life, articulating nuance, the delicate palette. At home, in your studio, you paint details with a tiny brush you made yourself of hair plucked from your forearm. They distrust me, you said, because they can tell I prefer my work to their own. Which is when I tucked a red anemone under your pillow to bring you good dreams. What else did you say? Fair enough. It is a marriage of equals and without degree. Your trace on me, like rope marks on the well's mouth. Here, have a thought. As for our misfit status, as Brecht observed, the palace of canonical culture is built on not to interpret, to feel life course through you. But I was a jukebox. What came out of me was just what other people wanted to hear. Let's let sleeping dogs tell the truth. I see the lives of others, but not their actual lives. The more I try to remember it, the more the word fades. Time metamorphoses memories and buries them. There's no restitution. Gradually, they fold in on themselves, irretrievable. June morning, the mockingbird triggers my impulse to stand, to respond with a standing ovation. Because I gripped what I loved tightly, what I've lived makes it easier for me to leave it behind when my time comes. Because I didn't grip tightly enough. My younger sister died today. My father died today. My closest friend died today. My mother died today. Each of their deaths detonates in iterative simultaneity inside the tissue of my being, unanchoring me, setting me adrift. Such griefs as our graves. How is it I can continue to smolder like this? Why am I not consumed? Summer roadrunners patrol the mesquite and brown barrel cacti, snatching grasshoppers out of the air as you rub the sunblind from your eyes. What to say of the pastel chromaticism of these Mojave sunsets? Here, as everywhere, when you go still, what has disappeared comes forward. Ya me cayó el 20, and you, an earthbound sun, a radiance. When we return to our car parked on the laterite verge of the road, I distract you from noticing the dead bird melted into a gruel, its eyes glazed with clusters of fly eggs. Only when we reach the edges of experience do we begin to intuit the more than this. Who will contradict me if I say you were and you are? We drive deeper into the desert arguing about whether it's possible to love without reservations. When we stop for gas in Barstow, where I was born, a boy offers to let you hold the horned toad he is gently stroking in the direction of its spines. Shifting light animates the room. What is so ordinary about living every day as we do, at the threshold of each other? Your emotions always visible in your eyes. In you I find my consequence, my natural history. In your company, irrelevance drains away. But what is it that makes you special? Is it your intensity? It's your ardor. Never a sneeze, but a rapid parade of sneezes. My office door opening, smiling face peering around it. You said you couldn't help falling in love with me because I looked at you with the mesmerizing gaze of a border collie. Last night we parked in the roundabout at the end of the lane, just listening to the hiss of sodium vapor streetlights and watching cyclones of oak moths rising and falling. We, who are also taking place in this place. The moon siphoned away into clouds. Was I even there? Will I be there when you need me? An olivine moon. The sum of what he knows of her is balanced on what he doesn't know. Came home early and caught her singing in the shower. His insides stirred as though for lunch he'd eaten sardines and a parrot. The covenant and affirmation of being his beloved's beloved. But the true explanation of an intimacy is the duration of that intimacy. Like an evening coming alive with fireflies, he feels himself pulsing from vivid amber to green. All that aluminum in the sky around San Francisco, the heavies taking off, flying east or south with us to Mexico. Quanto cuesta ir al centro, señor? In bushes behind the bar, a whistling frog tries hopelessly to compete with patio speakers, blasting rancheras, to die of exhaustion before it can mate. I pump the empty bathroom towel dispenser a few more times for its sound, like a bulldog wheezing. No pueden ver sus propias vidas, the woman at the next table says, as she makes a square in the air with her thumbs and index fingers. A loner on every other stool, staring into his beer. Around midnight, we stroll past a smattering of young people gathered on the steps of the closed museum, where a local teenager strums, and they're all singing Hotel California. By the time I wake, you're back from the market with poblanos and 2 balls of salt. In the guide's truck bed, dirty hiking poles and shin guards, a toolbox welded from diamond plate and angle iron. We pass miles of nothing but desert grass, dotted with palmilla, heat shimmer. Just before we begin to trek between the scalloped canyon walls, he shows us how to rub down our pants with crushed stink bugs to protect against snakes. He's seduced by an intelligence that outleaps his own. She's funny. Her jokes become his, and she adopts certain gestures from him into her vital movements. Each is charged by the charge in the other. Each summoned to what, if not a sacred assimilation? The moments brim with her liveliness. He's aching to see all the colors in her spectrum. And her ass like 2 cloves of garlic. After all they've undertaken and lived through, have they effaced each other's limits? Everything seems the same. The Pacific chorus frog in the front yard is answered by the one in the back. The firebox remains clammed shut. Danmi's green birdhouse hangs from the limb of the olive tree. Only now it is all quivering, holding its breath. When they pass in the morning in the kitchen, he spins her around and kisses her, as though in response to the question, how do you answer for your existence? They passed the burnt carcass of an Oldsmobile rusting in an expanse of sand, ciphered quiet at the skirt of calico peaks, and turkey buzzards high up, weightless as flecks of ash. Surely it is real, this swirl of light. But what is impossible in this life is impossible in any other. He finds her leaning over the fence, talking to the goat. Sweetheart, who taught you to stand on your hind legs like that? It's her spring voice, fuzzed by March pollen, the nitrous odor of his testosterone in the air. Burned oaks footed in naked rock crevices, a light so sharp it's percussive. Is there an emotion of awareness? Do they refine their bearings in the genuine, or will elation always be contingent, snagged between the slow unfolger of the self from its familiarities and the mesmeric qualities of hope? The Mojave, where whatever he is debouches from its sluice. What is more sacred than the gratuitous opulence of this emptiness? She can see how she looks to him. In his face can see she is gorgeous. How do I measure the inner experience of aging? the and yet, the and still of your affection. You disappear into my line of sight, as here takes its shape from you. But here, you said, at the time of our intrusion, you said, this zone here is not one of the earth's sentences, but an overdub of stutters. Here, where we're walking, on this slumbering crack, a complex, you said, of tensions right here. And you bent and touched your finger to the warm, ant-fenestrated dirt, while I surveyed the hairpin turn in the arroyo beside us. And then you stood and brought it, your finger, to my lips. You said, here. And you watched me as the taste, part you, part earth, brought a change to my face. And I'll finish with the coda, which has a different kind of rhythm. And those of you, you should know, if you climb rocks, you know that a shell jacket and approach shoes are equipment that rock climbers wear. Rift song. And so find myself in a shell jacket and approach shoes, strolling past boulders on the xeric canyon path, limbed with mustard flowers, as though it were my garden, as though I'd never drawn those distinctions that separate me out, as though I hadn't long back expelled myself from all that wasn't myself. But where is the human place in geologic time? Is there some quality in me that links I am to the remainder, to whatever is left over, left out? What in the world have I left out of me? Adjusting a headband beneath my hat, I lift the binoculars to my lined face. Displaced by lateral slip, the mountain's slopes have gone wonky. A human life, what is that anyway? Even here, at the disturbance zone, I find myself pierced by birdsong, standing among trunks and vines, risen from the ground like the births and messages they are. A riven land, this place belongs solely to itself. From the wall of a crevasse, tree roots jut out into air. The fault is the earth's junction box, where its wires are bared. The conflict churns underground, howling out in the faintest of decibels. Of course, there were signs, but no one of us witnessed the ballet of trees as the tectonic strain below them rose, and they inclined suddenly toward each other, from where they stood rooted to the parted lips of a widening rift. The earth humphed and rolled, and the trees bowed forward and held their new pose, which strangely resembles a gesture of devotion. But back at the start, I was occupied with myself, as though I were never to be apart, as if I weren't both in and of it. Of what? So I hiked the long fault for some new point of view, asking, muddled with anxiety, what comes next, now that I can't claw my way any further from what doesn't resemble me? The earth keeps stretching, knuckling, stretching out from under itself, hungry for a new shape, a new address. It has tossed itself loose from its sheets and risen, leaving behind a note I suppose I could read if I tried. The fissures run through everything, even through my remaining years, which I can count probably on my fingers. I fan them out and stare at their ruptured, upturned faces, the faces of my remaining years. I try reshuffling them, but no, they grimace one through the other. They release a sulfur smell. Their solidity dissolves like long clouds of filth entering a river. My time is here and not. Feet dangling, I'm perched at the edge of what? Listening to the crackle and extinctions of small breaths around me, while crevices bloom from the crevices, and dust lifts and catches in dry catches of wind. Heat and silence. Still, the ground insists its openings will be filled. Why not apply? Apply myself over and over. This argument goes beyond me. I, who have never been homeless, groundless. Am I just going to stand gobsmacked at the mirror while my years run out? What is left of experience that hasn't been measured? Is there an app for that? As I bend, I feel the weight of the specimen stones I carry in my jacket pocket slide forward as I continue my solo descent along the canyon's seam, as I sip and hold a quick breath, as I slip from sight into a chimney of rock. Thank you. Thank you.